Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the show. In today's episode, expect to learn what are the benefits of cardio exercises, how frequently they should be done, do they actually help with weight loss, whether it is better to do cardio before or after strength training, how to make them suck less, and much more. I feel like this episode is very timely, especially right now as I am middle of my marathon prep. I'm more so 3 months out, 3 to 4 months out. And yeah, so making an episode on cardio and talking about it, I feel like would be a really good, helpful thing, especially since also many of you guys are outside running, doing activities outside, playing pickleball, going on hikes, doing road trips, running, doing run clubs since they're all the rage now. Everyone's in a run club and just all the things. So since this is very dominant in my lifestyle at the moment, I want to share with you about what the benefits, the frequency, when you should do it, and all the rest of that I just went over, and we're gonna unpack that. But before I do all that, I just want to let you guys know that if you have not done so yet, please follow the show. Whether you are listening from Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just hit that little follow button and on the front screen of the Spotify account, and then the little square with the three little dots for the Apple Podcast. Right there, you can hit the three little dots to follow me and show some love. That way, I know that you guys are enjoying, you guys are following, and you get notifications every single time that episodes are released. And if you don't mind, and if you enjoy listening to all these episodes, if you don't mind hitting that rating, leaving a review, let me know how you generally feel and think about the show. Is a great way for you to support me, give me feedback. That way I can make the correct course of action on how to improve, and it also helps the show grow. And anytime you guys share it, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me, and whenever you do all these things, it warms my heart. It makes me very happy. So right into the show. So the way that I want to set the scene and go about this is I want to think big picture, because a lot of these questions I can answer them on rapid fire, but I want to give the nuances and paint the better picture to tell the story. That way I can, and hope, convince you to do more cardio exercises and go from there, which is really funny because I feel like as of lately, I've been identifying so much as a cardio person because I've been diving into the content so much more from a science and research perspective, from a delivery of content, and also from my own personal training. But how I normally trained really since 10 years ago, last 10 years have always been more so a hybrid concurrent style of training. There's always been some element of lifting component and some element of conditioning in how I do everything when it comes to training, because that's how best I enjoy it. I can tap into that flow state, have fun. And really, it's the holy chalice that I have found to help me have fun with this stuff and come back and continue to do it. Because that really is the best workout program, because there are millions of different programs, there's tons of different ways that you can periodize your workouts, different organization of how you line up your exercises and all the rest of it, and styles and energy systems. But all of them are great, it really depends. That's like the main answer, but it depends on what your goal is. And at the really constant, the base of it all is your adherence. How well can you actually stick to it and will actually come back and do it again in the long term? Because if you only do something once, and no matter how good it looks on paper, it's going to mean nothing, because if you don't enjoy it, if you don't see yourself learning to enjoy it and coming back and doing it again, then it really means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And so with that, I want to paint the big picture here when it comes to cardio and really how to answer all these questions. So the first thing is I want to talk about lifespan, health span, and strength span. And so with lifespan, these terminologies, the first time I heard about this is from a physician named Dr. Peter Attia. I believe he coined these, or someone else did. He more so popularized it because he's a big public figure and dope guy to learn from. So lifespan, when you think of lifespan, this has to do with the amount of years that you are alive. And the average life expectancy, it varies depending on your sex, your age, your demographic, your ethnic background, all of it. But normally life expectancy is around 70-ish years. So lifespan has to do with the amount of years that you are alive. Health span is the quality of those years that you are alive. And then strength span is the expression of strength and mobility, and really the expression of that strength in all facets across the entire lifespan, and it really overlaps with health span too. And so when I paint that picture, think of lifespan. Many of us want to live long, and there's a lot of different camps out there of biohackers and people who are trying to hack their bodies to live as long as they can and just doing whatever they can. And of course, if you are just wanting to feel good, move well, live a happy, healthy life, you want to be able to live long and have quality of your life and things like that too. So yeah, just because you live long, that doesn't mean that you're gonna have quality of life. Because yes, stretching that longevity, that time horizon matters, so then you can see your kids grow up. So that way you can meet your grandkids and then be able to hang out with them. As long as you can, be on this earth as long as you can. Of course, lifespan matters, but so many people I also know have been on this earth for a long time, but their quality of life diminishes every single year. And that's very nuanced and multifaceted, and it bleeds into many different areas. But when it comes to just health and fitness and how you navigate this world, this earth, is comes back to your body. You have your body. That's the one thing that you have. And that's the thing that you have that you need to prioritize and protect and optimize it and maximize it to the best of your abilities for you to be able to express strength in so many different domains to enjoy that lifespan, and that really fills up those cups of the health span. And so that's why I like that third component of strength span too. And strength span can be characterized as like how strong your muscles are and your joints and your ligaments and just your mobility, your function, and stuff like that. Because I'm sure many of you can think of that, our grandparents or that older person or just like older people in general, that when they get older, they just hurt a little bit more. Like after you hit 30, you start feeling like your joints are hurting, and then your 40s, and then your 50s, and then just like pretty much you're kind of like in a retirement home, or you lost independence and mobility to do certain things on your own. And that's sad. And that's not a future I'm sure many of you want to have, or to be on this like list, like laundry list of pills and medications, because your body isn't working as well as it used to. So you have to take all these different medication and pharmaceutical pills and interventions and doing all these different things to just really keep the lights on, and then you just sit in a chair and you just have other people do things for you, and every single day, every single year, you just lose a little bit more function over and over, and then that takes away the quality. Because say you have kids or like grandkids that you want to meet and see, and the thing is that those kids are going to be like a foot tall, and if you're in your 50s to beyond, to like there's people living to their like hundreds now, which are known as like centenarians. The thing is with your grandkids, they're going to be like a foot tall, especially when they're like 1 or 2 years old. Wherever tall little kids are, they're tiny humans or babies and stuff like that when they're crawling. The thing is, you have to be able to go from the standing position to kneeling to the floor and be able to keep up with them and be able to get back up and repeatedly go and doing that. And really, there's like a joke going around saying that like if you have strong knees, that's basically like a superpower. And I get it. Like I get it, but also it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to look forward to just pain and surgeries and pills and loss of function and mobility and the quality of your life of being able to do certain things. Of say, if your family wants to go on vacation somewhere and then you are not able to keep up with them when you're doing just normal running your errands of like going across the parking lot, going to say your family wants to go on a hiking trip, and you can't go experience those and create those memories and share those with those people that you love and or like friends and family, do those certain things because you are physically not capable of doing that stuff. You're not prepared to do it. You don't have the capacity to do it, because not just from a joint perspective, but from a muscle perspective, from a lung perspective, and from all like systems. You're just, as your body, you're almost trapped in it. And so when it comes to cardio and health and stuff like that, and this is going to also apply to you lifters as well, because I am a lifter by heart. There's also like another joke. It's where it's like, am I how did it go? Am I a meathead, or am I like a meathead that likes to read, or am I a nerd that likes to lift, or something like that? It's like a parallel toss up twist. I'm not very sure. But anyways, I digressed. So coming back to this, your heart, your cardiovascular system, your all of it really matters. And so setting the scene of like, okay, what are the benefits? Why do you want to do cardio? Why do you want to improve your cardiovascular system? And to paint that, I slowly alluded the like I painted the extreme of the picture where you lose function, you lose mobility, you lose capacity, and you're not prepared to do just normal human things. And notice how I didn't bring up anything about doing anything like crazy of like exercises and things like that. It's just normal human experiences that humans experience and you want to experience, and you want to continually develop new neural pathways and have those moments that's like worth living, have those life moments. And so with the benefits is that you get to increase that capacity, you get to have all those things. And some of the things, like it's like, yes, as you get older, if you simplistically look at your body as like a car, there's going to be normal wear and tear of just that yearly mileage that you will accumulate onto your system. But the thing is, just because Father Time is knocking your door does not mean that you have to allow him to kick you down even further. You can do something about it. You can become resilient. You can become robust and be ready to take those hits. Like be able to jump into that ring with Conor McGregor and take a couple hits. That is life. Because you've done it before, and who to say that you can't do it again as you get older? And yes, some things may crank a little bit more, or hurt a little bit more, or you might bruise a little easier. And certain areas, things may take more time, energy, attention, and unraveling certain belief systems and mindsets and self-negative talk and the language you use. Of course, all that stuff is infused into everything when it comes to health and fitness, and really everything. But there's something known as the four horsemen of disease, which is also another term that I've learned from Dr. Peter Tia. And once I first heard this from him, it captured me. I love how he distilled it down to this. So think of the four horsemen of disease, of chronic disease. And so with this, the first one that you have on the roster list, there's no really order of priority. They're just stacked up there. So the first one is atherosclerotic disease. So really cardiovascular diseases and cerebral vascular diseases. That word atherosclerosis is a hard word for me to say. So think cardiovascular diseases of whole system wise, and on also cerebral vascular diseases of the blood vessels inside your brain. So all the networks, blood, that stuff matters a whole lot. You need blood, you need your heart to pump, otherwise you're done. And so with some of those some of those different chronic diseases that you can develop over time by not taking care of yourself, has to do with maybe a stroke, or maybe coronary artery disease, or maybe peripheral arterial disease. So different type of diseases of the arteries, of where there's plaque buildup, and then damaging the endothelial lining of the layers of the arteries. And it's just a negative downstream effect of a roster list of atherosclerotic diseases for both the body and the brain. Okay, the next tier is cancer. So cancer, there's many forms of that stuff, of that type of disease. And then the next one is neurodegenerative diseases. So the most common one has to do with Alzheimer's disease. This is a very slow and maddening disease. And you can just notice someone, the lights just, it's like them just slowly fading away and the light is turning off. And their executive function, their memory, their processing, just all that makes up them, their soul, their brain, it just slowly deteriorates and then there's just like a shell of a person. They may lose their memory, their thinking isn't as sharp, downstream effects from there. There's more. So different types of neurodegenerative diseases. And then the fourth one, it more so lies on a spectrum, such as metabolic disease. So this can do with your inability to regulate your insulin, your glucose. Like I said, it's a spectrum. So having diabetes, all that stuff. So metabolic disease is a large spectrum. But to recap, the four horsemen of chronic disease has to do with atherosclerotic disease, cancer, neurodegenerative disease, and metabolic diseases. And so when it comes to cardio, yes, cardio, intentional cardio exercises, and also lifting paired together in some type of hybrid concurrent method way of living has profound effects on all four of these. That there's mountains and piles of evidence to show that it can help prevent, to help mitigate, to help reduce, to help all of these different chronic diseases. That way you can that way you can live longer. That way you can have more quality back to your life. That way you can just have a fighting chance, really, if you look at it that way. And I'm not saying that exercise completely neutralizes all of these, but cardio exercises, just taking care of your body, being physically capable and prepared, has a huge dose response and effect on all of these. It's you have a way better chance. That's it's yeah. And with I understand that exercise in the world now and health and fitness can almost feel like it's so gatekept, and there's barriers of how you can even improve your health, of like you feel like you have to spend so much money on supplements or organic food and plant-based or like the highest quality Piedmontese meat beef there is out there, free range chicken, and having all of these recovery gadgets of at home and devices, wearables to track your metrics and sleep and all that stuff. And all those tools and metrics and datas are useful and helpful. But the thing is, you don't have to have all that stuff. And you can get away with a lot. And it just takes time to build that eye to look through and try to find what is the lowest hanging fruit. What is the things that I can actually do right now that's within my control, within my financial means, within the allotted time I have, and all that. And so we're gonna go through it and go from there. So benefits, there's a lot of benefits. You can reduce your chance of facing these chronic diseases, and it's a shield that you have that you can increase its ability, so then you can just take the hits. You can take the hits. And a way that you can measure your cardiovascular system, yes, having a lower resting heart rate is a huge important thing. Normal resting heart rate. So the way that I would advise you to assess what your resting heart rate is to just sit down. Is just to sit down for 3 to 5 minutes and not move, and have some type of wearable on your wrists, or you can check the pulse on either your wrists or your carotid artery, and just sit there and count the beats. But just from a wearable, since most of us have wearables, it's really easy. Just sit there for 3 to 5 minutes, and then your heart monitor, the wearable on your wrist will get your resting heart rate. And some people's resting heart rate is actually like in the 70s and the 80s, and it kind of creeps up. And that is signs of, it's really kind of like the check engine light on your car, and you really don't want those things to pop up. And so if your resting heart rate is really in the 70s to 80s to 90s, and I hope to God it's not in the 100s, then you've got, the alarms are up, the warning signs are flashing. We got to do something about it. And so you definitely want your resting heart rate to be more in the 60s. And then the more cardiovascularly trained you are, the more fit you have. And when I use the word fitness, it's very ubiquitous and whole system. So the more fit you are, the lower your heart rate is. And then it's also lowering the chance of you having like high blood pressure. Your blood pressure will be in the normal ranges of where it should be. And the reason for that is because your heart is working more efficiently. It doesn't have to work as hard to keep the system on. Like your brain, all your organs, your working muscles, and just for you to sit there, you're like, exercise is a stressor. Walking is a stressor, and there's different tiers of that, of how we're going to go through this. But for you to just sit there and exist as a human being, everything is revving, all systems are firing, and if your heart doesn't have to work that hard, then that's a good thing. And so having that lower resting heart rate around in that 60s would be awesome, 50s or even 40s. The more highly trained you are, then yeah, your heart doesn't have to work as hard, because then you have more blood plasma in your blood. You are able to eject more blood out of your heart more efficiently from your cardiac output. So it's like cardiac output is your stroke volume. stroke volume is the volume of blood ejected from your left ventricle, your heartbeat is how many times it's beating. And so your cardiac output is the volume of blood that you are ejecting out of your heart per minute. And so if your heart can squeeze and push blood out with how do I want to say it? If your heart's able to work more efficiently, not have to pump as hard, but it's able to get more blood out for each beat and be able to use that oxygen and then transport it, man, your body's like good. You're like everything's primed, everything's tuned, the oil has been changed, and everything is just running like a well-oiled oil machine. And so with that, it's just going to make everything in your life so much easier. You're going to have way more capacity to do everything that you want to do. And so for the benefits of like for people who are just doing cardio exercises, it's pretty obvious. You'll be able to go longer, go harder without feeling like everything is so hard. So in that sense, and for even lifters. So the reason why you want to start doing cardiovascular exercises for lifters is because your muscles. So your muscles have these different energy systems, right? Your muscles have different energy systems, and the different energy systems you have are three main dominant ones. So think of your ATP, PRC, so adenosine triphosphate, phosphocreatine. So this is like your short burst. So think something where you use this energy system when you're doing like a 100-meter dash. So like 10 to 15 second short burst energy you got to use. Go. Okay, now you have more of your like anaerobic system. This can break, and your anaerobic system can break down into like two different parts, but we're going to stay kind of brief here for this episode for that part. So your anaerobic, this is where you are excuse me, your anaerobic system. Think about more interval style, like almost hit, and your it's like that like middle ground, right? And you're like kind of like running maybe about a minute to a couple minutes, boom, okay. And then now your oxidative, this is your oxidative pathways, your aerobic system, really that endurance part. This is where you are really using oxygen, your body's working really efficiently, and you're able to go for 5+ minute and beyond. And so all these different energy systems, they're always on. It's not black or white where only one system is at play. All these systems are green, flashing, are all on, but depending on what you were doing, what activity you were doing, they're going to fluctuate to meet the demands of what that activity needs that requires it. And so if you just think you have these three main energy systems, then yeah. And so for lifters, why doing cardio exercises is so helpful for lifters is like, think about this. Okay, if you're a lifter, then you just lift. But the thing is, if you're a lifter, you're probably going to be trying to get stronger, right? You're going to be working in those higher rep ranges of trying to get a 5 rep max, 3 rep max, 1 rep max, just to be as strong as you can in your squat, bench, deadlift, or any of the other lifts. But I'm going to use the squat for an example here, okay? So say that you are working on like top set for squats. Actually, no, I'm not going to go too specific in that one. But when you think for lifters, your muscle, you're able to recover faster between your sets and in the middle of your set too, so then you can go harder. So what I mean by that is like, say you are working 90% of your back squat today. And so that's going to be a very heavy weight. And with that, after each set you go, so you're doing only 3, but after each one, you just feel like you're getting hit even harder and harder. And it's taking longer for you to recover between those sets. When you're working on those like higher percentage like sets and reps, your rest time could be like 3 to 5 minutes, and sometimes for some people need to be longer. But the more aerobically conditioned that you are, the more you're able to prime your muscle, make those oxidative pathways, build those aerobic enzymes, just really prime the muscles to work more efficiently. Then you're able to recover faster between those sets. And then when you're in the middle of the set, so you have a 3 rep max, 2 rep max, or whatever, you're able to recover, and it won't feel as hard and difficult in the middle of the set itself. And so that just sounds awesome, because if you're able to recover, then you can really express the amount of strength that you have developed over the whole training cycle. And that just sounds like a win there. And so for lifters, you're able to recover faster between your sets and in the middle of the set, between the reps itself. So then you can push the weights harder and come back and get stronger again. And so the benefits of that, of course, across your lifespan, your health span, it bleeds into everything. And for people who are training for just cardio, yes, there's that. It's kind of obvious there. You get to be more efficient, be more conditioned, you have better times, and your heart's working faster and more efficiently. And then for lifters, you're able to recover better and all that stuff, as well as just for general health and well being for the whole lifespan. Okay, so next thing when it comes to frequency. Okay, so how often should you be doing cardio exercises? And so this one, I'm going to paint it into okay, so when it comes to cardio exercises, let's talk about the different modes, right? So the different modes is you can do cardio exercises on land. You can do, so think walking up to this, like the margin up to like running. So from one end of the spectrum of walking all the way to running, and then you can do cardio exercises on any type of cardio based machine of your choosing. So think of a rower, of a bike, resistance bike, of a ski erg, of a stairmaster, of really any type of cardio based equipment of your choosing. There we go. And then the next like mode environment is inside water. So swimming, right? Walking in the pool or swimming. So you can perform cardio exercises on land, on a machine based equipment, and also in water. Okay, so there's the three different modes, and now frequency. How often should you be doing cardio based exercises? Well, this really depends on your goals and really how much time you have and how much time do you have to give. And if we're talking about just intentional cardio exercises like these, it really depends. Really, it really does. It depends on what is it that you are trying to optimize or maximize. And so, if right now you're just wanting to dabble a little bit, then what is actually, like I said at the very beginning, what will make you actually enjoy it and come back and do it again? And so if you only have 20 minutes, or actually if you only have, yeah, if you only have 20 minutes at the end of each of your lifting session, then if that's how much time you have and how much time you want to give, then meet yourself with where you were at and do that. Because if you're starting from zero of cardio exercises per week, maybe just let's just do a frequency of one. Let's just pick one session where you just do it. It could be on a bike, it could be you out walking, it could be you swimming. It's really up to you on what you want it to be, because I'm speaking more on a 99% general public perspective here. Now, if you have individual cardiovascular goals, like a endurance sport of some sort, then the conversation would change a little bit because of the parameters for the outcome that we're trying to optimize and maximize. But just think, how much time do you have and how much time you want to give, and what is the mode of cardio that you actually find enjoyment in and will actually do it again, and making sure that it doesn't interfere too much with your lifting. And so this can go towards like, okay, so should I do cardio before I lift or should I do it after I lift? And now this is where most people ask the question. They're not wrong, but it's kind of micromanaging it, and it really doesn't matter too much from a general perspective. It really comes back to, okay, what are you doing? What are you trying to optimize and maximize? Okay, if you are more of a seasoned lifter and you want to get as, if your primary goal is to get as big and strong as possible, and say you're only working out 3 times per week lifting session, and you're doing more whole body or body splits or whatever manner you're going about it, then maybe doing cardio beforehand is not a good idea before the lift. And it also depends on the cardio itself. What is the form? How fatiguing of cardio is it? Is it you walking on the treadmill? Is it you doing um, sprints on a resistance bike? What is the mode? What is the intensity level? Because remember how I talked about energy systems earlier? If you do types of cardio exercises that is really going to tax you both muscularly and nervous system wise, it's going to take away from the lifting. And so say if you on the menu you are going to lift today and it involves legs, and you're going to go run for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, even an hour, that is going to fry your muscles in your legs and also your nervous system, because it's very neuromuscularly straining. And so it's going to take away from your lifting. Think about you as being a phone battery. You're starting the session with wherever you already are, probably not 100, because it depends on how well fed and fueled you are, and how well slept you are, and how well you are managing your stress. So wherever you are on that battery level, and if you are, say you're at 80%, and then you do cardio like running or bike sprints, that's going to rev different energy systems, that's going to be a lot more fatiguing, have your heart rate go up a lot higher and hang out up there, that's going to take away a lot of the lifting, your ability to push harder in your lifting later. And so that's something to be mindful of. Now, so if you're just doing a little bit of cardio to just warm up by walking on the treadmill or something like that, or doing some sled drags, or just sitting on the bike and just doing it at an easier pace, easier intensity, keeping it in those lower heart rate zones, then that's a great way to just warm up your body, really. Because when you are about to lift, you want to warm up your body. You want to warm up the joints, your core body temperature, get the muscles going, get the joints loosened up, all of that stuff. But it depends on how intense you're doing that cardio session and how long you are doing it and the different mode, and then see if it's going to affect it, especially if you have like a leg day session or just things like that. So that's a little more of the nuances. So it kind of matters there. And so, excuse me. And so if lifting is more of the priority A, then you maybe want to lift first and then do that more structured, intentional, dedicated cardio session afterwards. And it depends on what's the cardio session that you're doing. What is the adaptation that you're trying to get out of it? Are you trying to build like your aerobic capacity, your aerobic base, really build the engine that you're trying to have by either like walking or any type of cardio based equipment or something like that. So if you're trying to really build that aerobic system, then doing that afterwards, or even like a separate session or a separate day, may help. If you just like thinking practical, if you only have 3 times to go to the gym for that week, then yeah, maybe have. And so yeah, okay, so if you, in practical settings, say you can only dedicate 3 times that you can go to the gym and work out, okay, and now with those 3 times you only have 60 minutes, 45 minutes, okay, and so, and then that's where you have the parameters. And then if you need to ask yourself, what is more priority? You want more of the lifting element, or do you want more of the conditioning element, or you want to have a mixture of both, like understanding which one is taking a bit more of the priority for that current season of life that you are in. And so if it's lifting, then you might want to lift first and then do some of the cardio afterwards. And if it's the other way around, then that way is completely okay too. And then if that's kind of where you're at, but let's say like so yeah, when it comes to either you should lift before or after, for most people, simple answer, doesn't really matter, but but more practical, if you want to give your strength training, your muscle growth, building hypertrophy session of lifting weights in the gym more emphasis, since that's more priority, then give more energy towards that by doing that first and doing the cardio exercises afterwards. That way you have enough juice to give it when you are pushing it your all. And so that's that for timing. And then for like weight loss, is doing cardio a effective way for weight loss? And simple answer, no, it's not. It's really not, because I understand that some people have the argument of like, hey, cardio can burn a lot of calories. And now if you are looking at the amount of calorie burned or expenditure on your watches, on your fitness watches, like your Apple Watch, your Garmin watch, or your Fitbit, or whatever brand that you have, or heart strap, or if you are in like a group workout class and they give you those like heart monitor straps across your chest, and it shows this your heart rate and calories burned and everything on the screen. When you look at your heart rate, that is pretty accurate. Like that's a good metric to look at to see how high it is. But the calories burned, those wearables are not accurate whatsoever. Because I think I saw a paper where comparing some type of meta-analysis and systematic analysis of all the different brands across, I think the margin of error they found was anywhere between 30 to like 93% of energy expenditure. So how many calories you're burning. And so that's like a 30 to 90% error rate. And that's a really big margin. And just, you're not it's not a good way to look at calories. So when you're looking at your workouts, how many calories do you normally burn from your workouts? Well, depending on the exercises, from either in the cardio umbrella to the lifting umbrella to a mixture to doing HIIT to other forms like fighting styles, really it really ranges around 2 to 500 calories, which is not a lot because you can eat that back pretty quickly. And unless you are on the more extreme side of the spectrum of like runners, endurance training, like for me, for example, like right, that I'm trying to do right now, my last run was 12 miles. I ran that in like a little over 2 hours, so 2 hours and 20 minutes. And that my wearable said I burned 1,100 calories. That's There's a 30 to 90% error range there. So I'm not going to know. But even though that exercise is not the best lever to help with weight loss, it is a great lever to build more muscle. And if you can build more muscle, then your muscles become more metabolically active. And it has huge, profound effects that will permeate every other thing about you, from your cognition, from your cardiovascular system, from everything I mentioned earlier, from metabolic, from neuro, to the prevention of maybe cancer or reduction of it, to cardiovascular diseases, to make all your systems work more efficiently. And with that, your body is going to be revving hotter. It's going to be working more efficiently. It's going to be utilizing the oxygen you're breathing in and transporting it to your working muscles more efficiently. You get stronger. Your connective tissues, your ligaments, your tendons will stiffen up and get stronger. So then you don't get injured, and all these different things. It increases your capacity and your ability and prepare you to be able to train harder and do more things. And with that, has a lot of bonuses on your body composition, has a lot of benefits to your body composition, onto your general health, onto your performance, and to your stress management, into everything. And so if you're really trying to lower your body weight just by itself, the better lever to pull is from a nutrition perspective. Okay, so controlling your calories through a nutrition perspective is the most really effective way to control your weight. But now I'm going to jump into something else, because when it comes to metabolism, your body weight, there's something known as your total daily energy expenditure, so TDEE. So this has many different compartments that influences how your body generates heat, and easy way to conceptualize for your metabolism. And so one of the things is your NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So think the unconscious and conscious movements that you do throughout the day, from fidgeting to walking around the grocery store, from cleaning your home, etc., movement like that. And so in the research, they're kind of diving apart from conscious and unconscious movements and energy compensatory mechanisms that does influence all this stuff that we're still learning. And I'm still diving into that too as the new research comes out. But simple way to look at this is very metabolically active. So you burn a lot of calories from just walking, is a very simple way to say it. It has a huge effect on your body composition, more than intentional exercise. So your knee has influences probably 20 to 40% of your metabolism. So just walking, compared to intentional exercise like doing cardio and lifting, has anywhere between like a 10 to 15% effect on your metabolism, just from an energy perspective. And so by comparing those two, walking matters a lot. And so now how much walking should be doing. And so you've probably seen those like zones on those like old treadmills, or just really treadmill altogether. And so when you look at those treadmills, those zones, that very much matches the energy systems of the ATP, PRC, your aerobic and your anaerobic energy pathways. And so for the zones, it's 5 zones. So zone 1 is very light. Zone 2 is light. Zone 3 is moderate. Zone 4 is hard. Zone 5 is maximum. And so you've probably seen on those, it goes from like dark colors of like a gray to a blue to a green to a orange to a red, right? And so like when you're sprinting, you're probably more up to like that 4 or 5 zones. If you're just walking and doing like monostructural steady state cardio, you're going to be in those lower zones. And it's also have a huge flashy like bolded words saying this is your fat burning zone. And so yes and no, you are utilizing more fat during those lower heart rate zones, for sure, you're oxidizing and using more fat as fuel. But using fat as fuel and oxidizing it is not the same thing as fat burning. And fat burning, losing fat, and weight loss are also two separate things. Because if you're losing weight, it's a really big umbrella word. It could be muscle and it could also be fat. And now fat loss and versus fat burning, using fat as fuel is not the same thing as losing fat. Because for your body to reduce the amount of fat it has, it needs to jump from a maintenance down to a caloric deficit. And so the energy you need to stay where you are at, you need to be at less. So if you need to expend 2,000 calories, just using that as a hypothetical, if you expend 2,000 calories, it matches, then that's where your weight's at. So you need to be able to expend less than that, and however way different mechanisms, different domains, bring that down, and then do that over a long enough time horizon. And then, yes, that's where the fat loss happens. And so just because you are walking, I'm not going to, yes, you are using more fat as fuel. And this is also the really nice thing about cardio too. It helps you to become more metabolically flexible. Flux is another word for it. That just means your body's ability to switch between using fat as fuel versus carbohydrates, depending on the intensity of the activity that you were doing. And so the more efficient your body is to be able to recognize those things, the physical demands of what you're doing, and be able to switch between energy sources, the more efficiently and more, I'll stick with efficiently, then the more metabolically healthy you are to prevent you from developing those type of metabolic conditions, which also overlaps with the cardiovascular, the cancer, the neuro, everything all overlaps. It's not in isolation, they all overlap with each other. And cardio has effects to everything, because every single organ, every single disease that you can potentially develop, there's a blood supply to everything. So cardio is kind of important here. And so walking is a way better lever to pull if you were trying to pull yourself into a deficit by pulling on that lever of movement. So now how much walking should you do? Now that depends on where you are at. And so if you don't have a wearable, then you can just start walking more by having some type of cue to initiate that behavior. So after each of your meals, go for a small little walk, go on a walk in the morning, go on a walk in the evening, etc. Things like that. So, or you can have some type of wearable on your wrist. So having type of wearable, it's a great way to hold yourself accountable, to see how many steps you are walking. And it really shows a mirror, and it really paints the picture to tell the whole story of your behavior and see how you can increase your stats from there. And so black and white, it's really more on like a spectrum to meet you. You have to meet yourself with where you're at and progress it from there, from your mindset, from your beliefs, from your habits, from your environment, and how you can tweak all that over time. But from black and white answer here, if you walk 4,000 to 5,000 steps or less, you're leaning the pendulum more towards a sedentary range. If you are walking around 7,000 to 9,000 steps per day, that's a great health bubble to be in range. And if you swing the pendulum even more than that, then you're just gonna love life even more. And it also has like huge cognitive, like brain, creativity, just like it just helps a lot, like mental health, all that stuff. Walk more. And so walking more is a better lever to pull. And the nice thing with that is with walking more, you're able to develop more these different enzymes and molecules, like something known as GLUT4, that molecules that help you utilize that carbohydrates that you have, the glucose that you have in your bloodstream even more efficiently without raising your insulin, which helps with blood sugar regulation, glucose control, prevention of diabetes, downstream effect from there. So walking has huge, profound effects, and it takes time to build these type of adaptations. Cool. So I think we went down the benefits, the frequency for weight loss, timing of it, if you should do cardio before or after, and now how to make it suck less. Okay, so now how to make cardio suck less. I alluded to this with little snacks and breadcrumbs throughout the episode already, but how can you make cardio suck less? And I'm going to use this in the context of actually, yeah, first thing is, what would this look like if this was fun? Find some form, some mode of this that it can look fun to you. And if that fun can mean that, hey, it's summertime, you have some friends that are runners and you are not a runner because you haven't ran since high school and it's been a couple years or even decades, maybe just go on more walks, right? Just go on more walks on your own is a great way to start building your aerobic capacity, your endurance, really preparing yourself to handle more movement, more time on your feet. That's going to be a big thing. Now, if that's from walking, if you have the goal of to be able to run a 5K, to just really go on a run without feeling like you're dying, all that stuff. So just start by increasing your steps and finding some way to enjoy that stuff, finding some way to have fun with it, and almost like you get into like a flow state. And so if you can listen to like podcasts, listen to music, call a friend, go on a walk with a friend, go on a walk with a family, with your whatever, any of those levers you got to pull, go on more walks. That's a great first step to increasing those different aerobic cardiovascular adaptations that you were looking for that can help everything from your lifespan, from your strength span, from your health span. And now from there, it's like, which mode of cardio exercises do you want to do? Do you want to do stuff on just land from just your feet, or any type of cardio based equipment, or water? The nice thing is that you don't have to just choose one or another. You can do them all. You can go in seasons, also depending on where you live as well. So you can do them all. Find the form that looks the most fun to you that you'll actually keep doing, and understand that it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult. I would recommend not to look at your heart rate too much during these first couple of weeks. If you are running, if you are biking, if you're swimming, it's just because it's already going to be a huge stimulus and stressor to your body. Your heart rate is already going to spike up and your perception of it is going to be pretty high. And so I would recommend doing stuff at like a conversation style pace. That's more of that zone 2, that lower heart rate zone. And the reason why I say conversational style pace is, can you have a conversation with somebody while you're slow jog or when you're on the resistance bike? Can you have a full conversation with somebody without huffing and puffing too much? That would be a great way to stay in that zone 2, because zone 2 is very recoverable. You can hang out there longer and it's not going to fatigue you too much from a muscle wise and a mental central nervous system fatigue wise. You can come back. Now, you can also, it's also important to expose your heart rate to those higher, to expose yourself to those higher heart rate ranges, like doing HIIT style workouts to where your heart rate's going up to those like 160s, 170s, 180s, going up there. It's important every now and then to expose itself to it. Now, you have to be very gradual with that to get up there. How much to do all that stuff, that's going to be very much dependent on your specific like situation, and it really depends. But hey, if I were you, I would probably, like, if I was starting from ground zero, maybe just start going on walks, just go on walks a little bit more. Cool. And then now there's something called like exercise snacks, maybe getting a jump rope and going to my garage and I'll just jump for like 1 minute, like committing to 60 seconds of movement, or sprinting up and down my stairs or the stairs at work for just 1 minute. Just microdosing those tiny higher intensity movements is a great way to have an element of you doing that zone 2 more steady state monostructural cardio of just walking to meet you where you were at, just to get the steps in and to start building some of that aerobic adaptation and the belief and the psychological perspective too that you were like, you were in it, because it's a whole different ball game when it comes to doing endurance aerobic style workouts for long duration compared to lifting. And then then infusing it, microdosing it with some of those, maybe jump rope into in the garage for 60 seconds, or sprinting up and down the staircase either at home or at work, or going on some type of like resistance bike and doing a Tabata, like 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off, 30-30, something like that, and slowly build yourself from there and just stay more in that zone 2, that conversation style pace. If you have a heart rate monitor, think in that 130s to 140s, high like in the 150s also. So that 130 to 150 heart rate beats per minute range, and then just do that for a while. And then over time, you're going to notice that it's going to, the intensity that you're giving whatever the exercise is, it's going to feel easier, but you'll notice that your heart rate is going to go down, but you'll notice that your time split, your intensity is still the same. That means that adaptation's happening. It means that you're improving. And so you can either up the intensity or start increasing more sessions and time, all those different variables that you can play around with. And so starting off slow and giving yourself grace and time and allowing your body to adapt, giving it that margin of room to grow before you become too mentally dramatic, and making sure that you are hydrated with water, electrolytes, fueling yourself well, you're doing it fed, you are sleeping well, and all those other different avenues of health, making sure, will definitely play a big role in your ability to improve your cardiovascular system, really just to make the stuff suck less and prevent you from getting injured. Because many people, when it comes to cardio, they go too hard, too fast, and they really burn themselves out and they can really hurt. And there's also people can end up in really bad situations if you are not prepared for it. Say that you haven't ran in years and you just start running, all of a sudden you can develop different injuries in your ankles, your shins, your knees, your hips, and it has nothing to do with running. It had to do maybe with you and your approach. You have to be patient. You have to give your body time to physiologically adapt to that stressor. And when it comes to aerobic enzymes and adaptations, that stuff takes months to build. And so you really have to lock in. It's really just clocking in the hours. It's really volumes. Like volume matters a whole lot when it comes to cardio, and staying more majority of your time in that lower conversation style pace in zone 2, and then intermittently jump up into the higher ranges to expose yourself. But it all depends a little bit more. But starting out, that's my best advice for you, is to go slow and to just have patience, because you will improve. And because you know without a doubt that if you keep going, you will improve no matter what. It would be unreasonable if you don't improve. And if you don't do it at all, you're not going to improve. And being mindful of the different areas that I unpacked in this episode. Cool. Alrighty, so that was an episode. You guys have heard me waffle on for 52 minutes, and wow, cool. That was a good one. I hope I influenced you to want to do some cardio exercises, because it's something I love doing now. More endurance, long style running, but my way of training, always been the last 10 years, is more of a hybrid, concurrent mixture of an element of lifting and cardio infused somehow, because that's how I have fun. I keep it very, the variance of doing multiple different things just make it so fun for me. I feel alive and I can find my flow state, and it keeps me coming back, and I have fun, and it's a great vehicle for me to see that I can do hard stuff. I can stretch my mind to the end ranges and my body as well. And no one can take that away from me. And I only know that this is only going to have a positive effect that will permeate into every area, domain of my life. And so training is awesome. It's fun, and it helps give you more quality in your life, health span. So then you can go and do the things that can prepare you for life. So then you can just go enjoy the experiences for yourself, new things with others, create memories, do all the fun stuff. And now, if you guys have not yet, please leave a rating, a comment, follow. It would really make me very happy. It really help the show grow. And if you have stuck around this far, thank you so much for listening. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.